there is a lack of a clearly spelled out youth agenda in Africa. How are you willing to redirect that narrative?
All things I'm doing within my own community. I think that we forged relationships at school.
After seeing corruption take her nation backwards, one young economist looks ahead.
Where she's looking to empower and motivate young girls. Imagine an Africa where your hopes and dreams for the people in your countries and the continent as a whole come alive. Take a moment to think what that would look like. All right, everyone, open your eyes, please. What did you see? Did you see children excited to go to school because they had a nutritious breakfast that morning? Did you see dedicated public officials really committed to serving their people and their communities? Did you see doctors and nurses who have adequate resources to take care of the patients that seek health care? Did you see people from diverse backgrounds coming together and rather than seeing differences in one another, rather seeking humanity? Because when you bring people from different backgrounds together, you create fertile ground for new thinking, new ideas, new ways of doing things. I'd like you to hold on to the picture that you imagined in your mind. And if we contrast that with what we see in Africa today, we see greedy and corrupt leaders who, instead of wanting to serve their communities and their people, are more interested in serving themselves. We see families who don't have access to basic needs like water and sanitation. We see the elderly and the sick walking miles to access health care, and when they reach the hospital or clinic, having to stand in queues for many hours. This is an example of a hospital in South Africa, in Soweto, called Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. Up there, you'll see that caring is their mission. Do you think that the people that seek healthcare always feel cared for? While there are so many dedicated nurses and doctors working there, unfortunately, the reality is that there just isn't adequate resources to address all the need. So, if we think about where we are today and what we imagine to be possible for our beautiful continent, how do we move from where we are today to where we imagine she can be? For me, servant leadership is at the heart of this. If we think about the pockets of joy and hope that we've seen in our societies today over time, what has enabled that? If we think about great leaders like Nelson Mandela, who spent his life serving because he refused to accept that decisions could be based on the color of someone's skin. If I think about the incredible fellows that I met at Georgia State University, like Mwansa from Zambia, who's passionate about empowering women and preventing the onset of cervical cancer, and Izuchukwu Michael, who's passionate about fighting for integrity in Nigeria's public sector, I'm inspired, and I know that servant leadership is the way forward. I see it in so many of your hearts. 10 years ago, my heart was broken. After years of financial struggle, my parents sat my sister and I down and explained that they were getting a divorce. That same year, just before Christmas, my dad took his own life, and a few months after that, my best friend died in a car accident. It's difficult to describe what I was feeling during that time. I was numb, broken, and lost. But somehow, after being in that deep, dark valley, God shone so much light and love into my heart. And after a while, I was able to take his hand and start climbing up the hill again, and I really started seeing joy and purpose in my life again. And ever since that moment onwards, my greatest wish has been to reflect as much light and love onto others as possible. It's about shining brightly. And for me, that's what servant leadership is all about. it's about humility in my interactions with everyone that I meet, whether it's someone who's sweeping the streets or a top corporate executive. After all, the purpose of life is to discover your gift. The meaning of life is to give your gift away. And now, as I stand here today, surrounded by so many bright lights, a group of like-minded young servant leaders who, in the words of Ambassador Andrew Young, don't know how important you are. And you know what makes this fellowship so important, so special? I'd like to ask all of you to please hold hands with the person sitting on each side of you. What makes it so special is that we are now connected, and together we can achieve so much more. Together, as young servant leaders shining brightly in our communities, we can take Africa from where she is today to where we imagine she can be.